Hi everyone, my name is Angela Blessing and I'm here today to talk to you about stress and its impact on both our physical and emotional health, as well as talk to you about some strategies in dealing with some stressors in our everyday life. Did you ever wonder why some people seem to deal with stress so much better than others? Maybe even thrive while they're under stress? A common thing A common trait amongst these people are they seem to have a high level of optimism. They think that things are going to work out. They also have a high confidence level in their ability to deal with whatever life throws at them. They have a high self-efficacy level. Let's face it, some people are just hardier than others. They have just that right mix of optimism and self-efficacy to help them deal with stressful situations. Before I get into some strategies on how to deal with stress, I'd like to talk about the science of stress. Stress is defined as the physiological response when we fail to react appropriately to emotional or physical threats. Some stress is good for us. Actually, it keeps us out of danger. You may have heard of the flight or fight response. So let's imagine you're almost in a car accident. And right after that car accident, you've either, hit the brake or you've swerved out of the way. You have a feeling of your heart is racing, you may be perspiring, or your knees might even be weak. Well, that's our physiological reaction to stress, and it's as a result of our adrenal glands secreting the stress hormone cortisol into our bloodstream, as well as epinephrine and non-epinephrine, which then triggers the release of sugars, which then gives us the physical ability to react quickly to a perceived threat, or a real threat in this case. Now, let's imagine if we were in that constant state of alarm, if you will, over a long period of time, or we're chronically under stress. Our body doesn't have the ability to recover because it's constant releasing cortisol into the bloodstream. It's constant releasing glucose into our bloodstream, which then causes a multitude of health issues. Chronic stress is known to cause high blood pressure, heart disease, obesity, which can of course lead to diabetes. It even impacts us at the molecular level, and impacts our ability to fight off disease. It makes us be more susceptible to colds and even things as serious as cancer. So stress in the long term, being chronically under stress, is never a good thing. We deal with stress here all the time. It feels like we're always under stress, and if we're not able to deal with it appropriately, we run the risk of having our health suffer for it. So I was under stress a couple of years ago. I was working on a very difficult project. It ran for about 6 months. It was very high profile. I felt like I had the eyes of the world on me. And right smack in the middle of working on this project, both my husband and my son required surgery. And, kids, as they do, he recovered very quickly. My son was back on his feet within a couple of weeks, whereas my husband was not. It took him much longer to recover. He was actually out of work for 4 months. So I was not only dealing with being on this stressful project, I was dealing with additional stressors at home. And in looking back at that time in my life, I can honestly say I did some things right, and there were some things I could do better. One of the things that I feel like I did right was I tried to really stay organized. I made a to-do list. I prioritized it every day at work. I tried to focus on the things that were most important and tried to get through those things. Whereas at home, kind of along the same lines, I stayed organized. I tried to keep my house neat and tidy. And I also tried not to sweat the small things. If my family had takeout 5 nights in a week, then they had takeout for 5 nights that week. It just gave me peace of mind. It took that burden off me of having to shop and prepare a meal. Now, where I think I didn't do so well and I could have done better, and looking back, is I could have asked for help more often. I could have taken on that more tend and befriend approach to dealing with stress. In that I could have at work really reached out to my coworkers when I felt very overwhelmed, or at home reached out to family members and friends if I needed a hand picking up one of my children or running an errand for me. So in looking back, I now know if I'm ever I'm ever put in a position like that again, I'll be able to deal with it a little bit better. So now I'd like to talk a little bit about some strategies for dealing with stress. So first and foremost, I think it's very important to think positively. I think thinking positively goes a long way. No one really wants to deal with someone who's always negative. So not only are you making it stressful for yourself by thinking negatively, you're projecting that negativity onto your coworkers. Next would be to follow some relaxation exercises. I know when it's very helpful to me if let's say I'm getting ready to go into a meeting and I know the meeting might be contentious or might need to have a difficult conversation. I might just take a few deep breaths before I go into that meeting to center myself, to get myself focused, and it really does go a long way in helping you just feel calm so that you can seem calm and you are alleviating your stress level. I think that's very important. Some people actually will meditate. They feel like that's very helpful. The third strategy is really two things. You have to eat properly and you have to sleep enough. Our bodies need to be nourished in order to take care of us, and it needs rest in order to take care of us. So those two things are very, very important. Fourth is exercise. Again, really important. If you do not have an outlet for all of this stressful energy that you're feeling, the problems will only be compounded and will lead to other more serious problems. And last, it's really important to stay connected with your friends and family, and it really is important and helpful if you even do something like going to a movie once a week or having a date night with your spouse. You'll come back feeling re-energized and ready to get into whatever you need to get into. That concludes our presentation today, and right now I'd like to open it up to the floor to see if you have any questions. Thank you for having me today.